the names on the roll of lines over there. So I'm a human rights activist. I've worked for United Nations, governments, NGOs around the world, in the Middle East, Europe and Asia. I never thought I'd be doing anything for LGBT. I've always worked with LGBT related charities wherever I've lived as a volunteer or whatever. But whenever I'd come back to the UK, I'd see that we were living in the dark ages in the Asian community. Yes, you know, we had like Tom Daley and we had rights for a lot of, it seems very white, LGBT related, middle class people had the opportunities, whereas for the Asians that I knew, they were still marrying someone of the opposite sex if they were gay, and they were still, you know, experiencing a lot of shame and guilt and alcohol addictions and problems. And then I came about coming up to my parents, and they were very fantastic and they were very supportive. And I started doing activism on like, I do a lot of my activism in English, but I also do it in Punjabi, in Hindi and Urdu, because I believe those are the languages where we're not tapping and there's no resources. And so I was on Punjab radio, I was out Gay Guy on the Sikh channel, and then I decided to write this book, Bollywood Gay. And one of the reasons why I wrote it was because it's a self-help book. It's based on law of attraction and spiritual principles. I work as a life coach and a spiritual counsellor. But one of the reasons why I wrote it was because when I came out, there was nothing for my parents in Punjabi or in other languages. So one of the most amazing things about this book, which is not available on the NHS, it's not available in India, Pakistan or Bangladesh, there's a part 3 inside. It's called Coming Out, which is in 13 different languages. And you've got it from Arabic, you've got it in Arabic, you've got it in Bengali, in English, in Gujarati, in Hindi, in Kannada, in Malayalam, in Marathi, in Nepali, and in Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. It's in the languages where most people who comment on my social media, because I make YouTube videos with my mom, and my dad appears on certain things as well. So on this Coming Out section, it just talks about what is being LGBTI, why it happens, and how do you know if your child is LGBTI, what can be done about it, and what kind of life your child can have, what about HIV/AIDS, and where you can get support. The rest of the book is for the actual LGBTI person themselves, because I don't, in my line of work, I do go and work with religious organisations and other organisations to kind of get them on board, but it's more for me to empower the individual I'm with to get to that stage where they've removed that guilt, removed that shame, accepted who they are, had self-love, and then got to that stage, and waving please, got to that stage where they basically are happy in themselves. And so the book, I've written, there's 5 different versions of this book. The first one comes in hardback, and the reason why I did it in hardback was for people who are in the closet and they don't want to come out when they're on a bus or anything like that, they can just simply take off this book that's here. Shall we do the photograph first? Go on. Shall we do the photograph first? And then different versions. You've got hardback, paperback, Kindle, ebook and audio. So the reason why the hardback was done, because some people in the closet and they don't want to read this book on the bus and see the big sign of gay on there, right? So you can take the top bit off, and then there's nothing on the spine either, so there's nothing saying gay on it, and it's in blue, so you just a textbook. That's why it was done in hardback. And then in paperback, this is a bit bigger because there's worksheets inside, because I work as a life coach. After every chapter, there's action sheets where you can basically do all the homework that I give to my clients. And it progresses to the stage where you basically remove that guilt and shame. And it works, there's 5 different sections. It starts off basically explaining my life and why are you LGBTI, what are the reasons for it. And then I talk about the law of attraction. And then you go into the actual LGBTI explained. So basically being South Asian and gay, and then about religion, and being, you know, all the stuff that's in the gay community, like drugs, alcohol, abuse, and things like that. I've kept it gender neutral, so there's nothing saying he or she, because I'm trying to be inclusive of all. And then you've got the coming out section, and then part 4 onwards, part 4 and 5, it's all about changing it, so removing the negativity, being authentic, being conscious, being aware, being a positive role model, and then how to bring change in the world. Both the paperback and the hardback have the 13 languages. However, the Kindle and audio don't, because Kindle is only in English. It's not in the language that I need it to be. And it's a free Kindle download today if you want to download it. It was #1, by the way, on Amazon bestseller list. So that was really good, and it's only been out for like 2 weeks. So yes, and the audio I narrated myself. It's because some people don't like reading books and they just want to hear it on whilst they're driving or whatever like that. And so those are the different versions. So there's a lot of thought put into that. And I'm going to read a little extract from Being Gay and South Asian, so that because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about here today, though the book has a lot of different sections and layers to it. So chapter 4, Being Gay and South Asian. Everything is a direct reflection of you. great freedom and relief come in accepting oneself and living in accordance to one's dreams. Being gay and South Asian is not something that is talked about in the Asian community. Asian families, due to culture, can be less accepting of homosexuality as they don't see it as normal. People are born into a tradition which is bound by honour, submission and cultural norms. For instance, the Punjabi culture is very heteronormative, the assumption that heterosexuality is the norm. The gender norms dictate that men should be masculine and women feminine without much room for anything else. I used to feel like an outsider at family events all the time. I still do, but not as much. Weddings were and can still be painful experiences for me. Aunties and uncles asking about my marriage and boys doing the Punjabi Bhangra dance, acting macho and manly. I would feel uncomfortable dancing with everyone watching, especially with the film crew around. Now I realise that most people feel like outsiders at these events. Insecurities and jealousy are all too common, with everyone trying to prove their self-worth and gain validation from the rest. Exhausting. That is why I choose whether I go to these events or not. And this is something that I hear from a lot of the clients or people who message me online saying that, you know what should I do? I've made YouTube videos and I make a YouTube video now about being bullied at weddings and things like that, because the aunties and uncles are saying, you know, you should get married and you're getting old now, and there's a lot of that going on. I'm afraid of being disowned, which is another thing that people always say to me. It is understandable then that most of my clients, if not all, are bound by fear. It imprisons them. They negatively think of the outcome they do not want. I hear these words regularly. My parents will disown me, there is no life being gay, I will be alone forever. If you also think like this, you are more likely to manifest it into your life, because what you focus on becomes. Whatever you have in your peripheral vision multiplies. This leads to unnecessary worry, tension, depression, or worse. I always ask my clients to focus on the present moment where they are, to know they are safe and loved in this minute when they are speaking to me and trying to work on themselves, just as you are reading this book, means they're on the right path, the path to being a better version of themselves. I encourage them to visualize and feel how they would like their life to be in the next couple of months or years. The sights, smells, sounds, tastes, and feelings. I want them to dream the best life possible and imagine it is coming to them, if not already here. The way the law of attraction works is quite simple. We are all frequencies of energy. As we tune our frequency to another dial, just like a radio station, what we bring into our life is matched to that frequency. Thus, thinking in a positive manner not only removes tons of fear from your shoulders, but also relaxes you into the infinite possibilities of the universe. I imagine it like a person wearing a hoodie looking down at the dark street in front of them, unable to see what is around them, to the person without a hoodie looking straight ahead confidently, able to see what possibilities surrounds them. We are but energy after all. So I use the law of attraction to come out and have the best coming out story possible. Because before I came out, I grew up in a very violent household where I thought I would be killed, disowned, or forced to marry a woman. I wasn't thinking of having a rosy coming out story at all. And I was working for the UN in the Middle East, and someone had passed me this book called The Secret. I don't know if you've heard it or read it, but it's amazing. And in there, I learned that you create your reality with whatever the thoughts are you thinking. So the way you interact with people, with your parents, if you're negative and you think you're going to be disowned, you're more likely to bring that into your life. So I would always, for 6 months to a year before I came out, I'd keep telling people that, you know what, my parents are coming around, they are okay with me, you know, living around the world and being who I am, they're okay with me being gay. And slowly I started to think and believe that. So my communication on the phone improved, and when I actually came out, they were relieved and not shocked. And they thought, this son of ours, he seems to have confidence in himself, because I was trying to remove that shame and guilt and trying to be in my own power, and then that really works. Can I be straight? Some of my clients ask me if I can make them straight, to which I reply no. Sexuality can be fluid like a scale and may evolve through time. But if you're purposely trying to change your sexuality to gain validation or acceptance, it just won't happen. When we reject aspects of ourselves, we are not truly connected to our higher self. In the state of total alignment to source, we are happy and content. We accept all aspects of ourselves and do not want to become anything else. When we are at this stage, we have no need to change who we are, for we accept ourselves fully. We realize the benefits of being who we are and the lessons we have learned to expand our consciousness. Then, only if in this state of total alignment, our sexuality changes, it does, but we cannot force it to do so. And then I talk about how it can be harder for females who are LGBTI and their freedom can be curbed. Then I talk about how it's for transgender and how you can be seen as, you know, objects of desire. And then I talk about sexual abuse and why it happens in families from a spiritual perspective. that you come from an environment where it's just full of it's just full of abuse and low negative energy, which makes you an attraction to that situation. And how to improve it is basically by working with these families and making the situation better, and how to get the stigma out and marriage of convenience, which I'm going to just touch upon, and then I'll talk about how you can come out. So what about my shadi, marriage? One of the biggest barriers to coming out as South Asian is marriage, heterosexual marriage. Most Asian families expect marriage. Even before the conception of their child, parents conceptualize the marriage and life they want their child to have. It comes from both a place of love and fear. Love because they want us to have the best life possible, and fear because it is out of control and angst over what society will say. Arranged marriages or assisted introduced marriages are the norm in our culture as opposed to love marriages. Thus, the pressure for such a marriage can be devastating, especially if you're not used to speaking openly and honestly with your parents from a young age about your thoughts, ideas, and aspirations. Particularly if you've been living with them all this while, it can be hard, and a lot of personal courage is needed. And you have to think about your family's honour, is it? I do make it kind of easier. I have points in there about how, in my videos I'll refer to it as well, but I do give points on how to come out, and I also talk about something which is a bit controversial, which I'll touch upon now, that for some people, they might not be able to come out. Maybe in this life, they can't, especially if they live in India, Pakistan, and even here I know of loads of girls and guys who call me and say, out of Izzat, out of honour, I had to marry a girl from back home or whatever. And to them, I can't judge them, and I try not to judge them in this book and say maybe in this life, your purpose is just to create that open dialogue and not to judge other people who come out and help your parents to accept that. Because sadly, it's not the reality that everybody can come out at this moment. So I talk about that as well. And then I give pointers on how they can be the best possible version of themselves. I might just read that paragraph quickly. I understand the pain of coming out and being authentic, especially if you live in a small village in rural India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh. I get regular calls from clients who are in remote villages in India who don't even have basic knowledge of what their sexuality is. It's neither taught in schools nor by parents. They are lost and confused. When I ask them to Google it, if they have access to a computer, they say they are too scared even to do that. No one can force you to come out. I understand the strength and power needed to do this, but you may fear losing your parents, your dignity, and maybe even your own life. This is no laughing matter, I understand. Let's be clear. The collective consciousness of the locale where you live is in a state of barda, control, and fear. This needs to be overcome. The only way I suggest is to focus on the good and the outcome you want without ever looking back. Don't fear the outcome, but think of the possibilities. Of course, if you want to marry a girl and live an inauthentic life just to please your parents and society, I understand. Perhaps your role in this life is to pave the way for your children to come out. We should not judge you for that. It's a certain kind of soul mission to truly come out proud and be who you are. Think what is best for you in your current environment and situation. Become a tolerant person who is loving and kind. Stand up for the rights of those who are less fortunate than yourselves and educate those around you on basic rights. You are the change, and no matter what, you can make a positive impact even in your small, isolated village. Think Malala Yousafzai, the brave girl who fought for her basic rights. You don't even have to be as proactive or in the firing line as her. Oh no, just focusing on positive actions and words is enough. So I could go on and on, but there's loads of different things in here. And with a lot of clients I've worked with, especially I do a lot of free work, and especially with my asylum seeker clients, you know, when they work on the action sheets and they think about manifesting the way they want, they do get their visas. Because I've actually worked both on the side of being a UN, HCR, RSD, you know, interviewer for asylum, and also on the other side. So there's nothing like this out there. It is a spiritual book, but it's also based upon life coaching and counselling, and it does help address issues that are not out there. You know, a lot of the books for LGBT are written by white men who are, you know, in their middle ages perhaps, and this is more of a book that's got a lot of social media elements in there. Some of the proceeds go to charity to help LGBT individuals from these communities to get scholarships and you know, get abroad or whatever, to safety. And every chapter has hashtags and social media and tweeting and like quotes in there. And yeah, I don't know if there's any more questions or you want to go on or time's limited.
I think, is there any questions for Manjinder?
It is free to download on Kindle today. If you want the 13 different languages that are inside, then I would recommend getting the paperback or hardback.
Thank you.
On Amazon. It's available on Amazon.
Can I ask you, how many people contact you from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh?
A lot.
Like 2 a week, or 10 a week, or?
I'd say probably like 3 a day. Yeah.
And how do they find your contact details?
So I'm plastered on social media. I've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I make YouTube videos. I have a website, myspiritualsoul.com. I've had loads of interviews by loads of organisations, especially in those countries as well. Like I was on the front page of Hindustan Times and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the people are from villages as well, who don't have knowledge. They don't know why they're gay. I made a video in Hindi about sexual education, because even in their little towns and villages, they didn't know what, like, you know, I get questions like, oh, you know, my penis is this side or that side, it's going bent or whatever. So I get all sorts of questions which I have had to address, which is nothing else out there, but I do get a lot of people contacting me.
Matt, did you?
It's fine. I just wanted to say it's the parts that I've read already. It's good that it does tackle that topic of saying that